All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to today's coverage of NASCAR Cup Series qualifying taking place at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Our stream was supposed to begin about 9 minutes from now at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. That was originally when qualifying was scheduled to get started. I just got up to my room and realized, well, qualifying already started, and we're already, looks like 15 drivers in, 16 now, as the 16th has just posted their lap time. So I don't know what happened. NASCAR must have moved the start time up, either earlier this morning or yesterday, and I did not see that. So I apologize for not going live beforehand. Obviously, I was, ready to go all morning pretty much with all the stats and everything. I got that ready to go from yesterday afternoon. So we'll take a quick update to see where we're at right now. Again, it looks like 15 drivers have completed a qualifying lap. Top 10 from round one move on to round number 2. And Joey Logano will be the top driver right now with a speed of 179.464 miles per hour. And that is a lap of 30.892. Of course, Logano qualified on the front row for this race a season ago. Michael McDowell for the 34. And Front Row Motorsports was on the pole for this spring race last season. Actually, he was on the pole for both of the 2024 Atlanta races. So Logano's P1, Josh Berry is second, Todd Gilliland third, Zane Smith fourth. He got 4 Fords up in the top 4 positions, a couple more in the back half of the top 10. No surprise there because we know how dominant they were at Atlanta in both races last year, especially in that fall race where they were able to get the win. After Gilliland and Smith in row 2, as of right now, obviously, you would have Kyle Busch, the lone Chevy, in the top 5 and 5th. Noah Gragson is 6th, Ryan Preece 7th, AJ Allmendinger is 8th, 9th Bubba Wallace, and 10th is Carson Hocevar. And again, he would be on the cut line. The drivers outside the cut line, now Hocevar drops down to 11th. Let's see here, Brad Keselowski jumped up to 6th as he was just on track. Shane Van Gisbergen is 12th behind Hocevar, who now drops to 11th. Cody Ware is 13th. Christopher Bell 14th. So Toyota's not looking as quick in qualifying this week as what we saw at Daytona for the 500 last week, at least early on. Ross Chastain is 15th. BJ McLeod 16th. JJ Ailey 17th. 39 cars in the field this weekend, so nobody will be going home. Not quite a full field, but we do have 3 open entries. 2 of them have already qualified, being McLeod and Ailey. Corey LaJoie has yet to qualify, who would be the other open entry for this weekend. Kind of sucks. I had my notes all ready to go for this, and we missed the start of qualifying. This is the first time that this has happened. Let me get the chat up on my phone just to see what you guys are looking at there, because I just literally got up here a couple minutes ago. On NASCAR.com all week it said that qualifying was starting at 11:30. So I'm trying to figure out why it had already started. I did feel that that was a little bit too close to the start time of the truck race, considering that they were supposed to begin at 1:30 this afternoon. And I get that there was no practice beforehand, but still. Austin Dillon rounded out his lap in 11th with a 31.205, just missing out on the cut for the top 10. Denny Hamlin, 19th. With a 31.699. Actually, he's moving up the leaderboard a little bit. I had him 19th for a second. 17th, which is not good. Still. Hamlin had qualified top 10 in the Daytona 500. So surprising that he's back at 17th. To say the least. You wonder if that might have something to do with the penalty to Chase Briscoe earlier in the week, the L2 penalty. Maybe that had helped them for qualifying, and Briscoe got caught, so they decided to kind of backtrack at JGR from that. And now you're seeing them towards the bottom of the speed charts again, which is where we usually see the Toyotas with this next-gen car on these drafting-style racetracks, and in particular more so at Atlanta. Of the drafting tracks, even though Ford seems to have the advantage every time we go to Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta, it seems like they have even more of an advantage at Atlanta. On this 1.5-mile circuit. Wade, Puma Penguin, thanks for tuning in. I think Penske will be pole. Yeah, I definitely think that would probably be the smart choice. Front row was quick last year with Michael McDowell, but McDowell is not there anymore. Although Todd Gilliland being up in third, Zane Smith in fourth, all they got to do is make it to the top 10 and they'll have a second crack at it. Noah Gragson also still in the top 10 with that third front row entry. Although he is in the back half of the top 10, not sure if he's going to be able to hold on or not. So now currently on track is Cole Custer. Custer's best finish in his career at Atlanta under the 2022 and beyond would be in 2022, where he finished in 9th. He's got 3 starts at the drafting style racetrack here at Atlanta. Average finish in those 3 starts, 25.0. I think his lap will be coming up here shortly on our leaderboard. I don't even have Amazon Prime on my TV. I literally just rushed this to get it started as soon as I saw at the time that there was like a dozen drivers, and then by the time the stream started, we had 15 or 16 of them that had qualified. So the next 2 qualify will be Cole Custer, Kyle Larson, Corey LaJoie, Justin Haley, and then Riley Herbst, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs, and Chase Elliott. Those will be the next 9. Ty Dillon, Daniel Suarez just after them. And again, your top 10 as of right now, Joey Logano in first, Josh Berry second, Todd Gilliland third, Zane Smith fourth, Kyle Busch fifth, Brad Keselowski in sixth, Noah Gragson seventh, Ryan Preece eighth, ninth for AJ Allmendinger, Bubba Wallace top 10 in 10th. Only Toyota in the top 10. Wallace's lap time is a 31.204, so that's the cut time that needs to be beat if you want to try to advance to round 2 as of right now, but only half the field has gone, so I'm sure that lap time will get quicker as we get more cars to qualify. And again, the top time is a 30.892 for Joey Logano. The only 2 drivers, obviously the top 2, being Logano and Berry, to run a sub 31 second lap time for their qualifying lap. It is worth noting that the Cup Series does use the full Super Speedway package at Atlanta versus the Xfinity and the truck programs use kind of a modified low horsepower, low downforce package, where the Cup Series uses their typical low downforce, high downforce, low horsepower package. I can't talk. I'm kind of flustered. We were a little late here. That's my worst nightmare, is things starting when I'm not around. When it comes to on-track activity and getting these streams done on time. Cole Custer jumped to 12th, by the way, in his qualifying lap. 31.256. Up next is Kyle Larson. He's qualified in the top 10 in the last 5 races at Atlanta, but qualifying has not been the issue for him at this racetrack. He has DNF'd in 4 straight races here, and in 5 of the 6 drafting style Atlanta races he's DNF'd. No finishes inside the top 10. His best finish is 13th. By far one of the worst drivers in the Cup Series that has ran all 6 races at this track. He's got an average finish of a 29.8 in those 6 races. 3rd worst in the Cup Series of anybody that's ran all 6. We went through his Daytona stats, and they were actually a little better than most people would have anticipated, at least for the Daytona 500, but Atlanta has bit him quite a bit, and this is going to break the streak of 5 straight top 10 starting positions for Kyle Larson, as he was 12th fastest, 31.225, with a 177.55 mile per hour average. Now Justin Haley for Spire Motorsports is going to be on track, as Corey LaJoie just wrapped up his lap. LaJoie timed in 19th quickest with a 31.530. Quickly on Corey LaJoie, too, while he had just qualified, he does have 2 top 5 finishes in the 6 races at Atlanta under the drafting style track, and that's not counting when he was leading on the last lap and had gotten in that crash in the summer race of 2022 when Chase Elliott won. So he's been up at the front. He's actually got an average finish of 14.8. That is in the top 10 of drivers with an average finish here at Atlanta under the drafting style track. And as for Justin Haley, his best finish here is 7th in 2022. And that was in the fall race. Summer, I guess, technically at that time. It was only fall last year. It was summer the 2 years before that. It's going to be summer again this year. 13.3 average finish. Justin Haley, even better than LaJoie, but only 2 top 10s. He very consistently finishes in that top 15, just outside the top 10, but he snuck in with a couple of top 10s, 7th and an 8th place finish in there as well. Justin Haley also just outside the top 10, 13th, right behind Larson and in front of Custer. 31.242 for Haley. 23 drivers have qualified. Top 10 has not shifted since they came back from the commercial break. Riley Herbst for 2311 Racing is up. His teammate is in 10th. We'll see if he can be anywhere around that. And it doesn't look. It's going to be the first start for Riley Herbst at Atlanta in his Cup career. This will be his 6th career Cup start, and he has made a couple of drafting track starts at Daytona, Talladega as well, but none here at Atlanta. And those were with Rick Ware Racing a season ago. Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s best finish at the track is 6th. He is now on track. 2024 was his best finish. And that was in the spring race 1 year ago from this weekend. 2 top 10 finishes for Stenhouse, an average finish in the 6 races at Atlanta under the drafting style track, 18.1. So 25th qualifier, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 21st, back half of the field, so he'll probably be starting deep once everybody ends up making their lap. The only car at JTG Doherty Racing. Definitely doesn't perform quite as well here compared to Daytona or Talladega, even in that same equipment. Of course, a winner at both of those tracks in the next-gen era, but Atlanta just doesn't seem to fare out quite as well for Ricky. So 21st for him with a 31.514. Chase Briscoe, big in the news this week compared to any other driver. L2 penalty, 100 owner points, 100 driver points have been deducted. He's actually in the negative as he enters this weekend, and it's mathematically impossible to get back in the positive because the most amount of points you can score in a single race is 61. His crew chief was fined $100,000. I believe driver was also fined $100,000. And as for Briscoe, if he is to make the playoffs, he will have a 10 playoff point deduction as well. So he'd basically have to get 3 wins or equivalent to that to get him back into the positive on the playoff point side of things. And clicked on the ad. Went to scroll up the leaderboard. I'm surprised I didn't do that all of last week. That's a first. And yeah, Chase Briscoe nowhere close to the pole lap. And I really do think whatever happened to get that L2 penalty had to have helped Toyotas on these super speedways. I would think, because you don't see any of them in the top 10 other than Bubba Wallace right now. And he's in 10th, and I don't think he's going to hold on to that spot all the way through qualifying. We got some fast cars still to go, a couple Penske Fords as well. Briscoe 15th, 31.283 for Chase. His best finish here is 15th. Hasn't fared well at the drafting style Atlanta track. No top 10s. And average finish of 24.3. Not so hot. Ty Gibbs just rounded out his qualifying lap. Not that great either. Just in front of his teammate Denny Hamlin. Not quite the worst JGR Toyota in qualifying, but he'll be starting deep in the field as well. 25th out of 28 cars is not a positive start for Ty Gibbs. 31.545 for him. His stats at Atlanta, 9th is his best start. He's only made 4 of the 6 drafting style track starts. That would be both of them last season in 24 as well as in 2023. 2 top 10s though. 17.5 average finish. He either finishes in the top 10 or he doesn't finish at all. Has been the trends for Ty Gibbs at this Atlanta version that we see here today. Ty Dillon is the 29th driver to qualify. He's only had 4 starts at the drafting style Atlanta track as well. and he has not made a start here since 2023 in the Cup Series. 19th is his best finish, 26.5 average finish for him. That was in 2023 in the summer race, that rain-shortened event where he got that 19th. He qualified well at Daytona last week, but he's not going to crack the top 10 this week. 31.238 for Ty Dillon. So the top 10 still remains the same and has been that ever since the 19th car had gone out. And so 10 drivers have qualified, none of which had cracked the top 10, so it still remains the same. And we are down to the final 10 qualifiers, and those 10 will be Daniel Suarez, Michael McDowell, Eric Jones, Chris Buescher, Austin Cindric, followed by John Hunter Nemechek, Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, and William Byron will be the last to qualify. Suarez, the defending winner at this racetrack, and he is very, very good at Atlanta. His stats at Daytona, Talladega, not so good, but Atlanta, very good. He's probably going to be one of the heavy sleeper picks for this weekend. Not only the defending winner of the race, as I already mentioned, but he also has 2 runner-ups. He's got 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s in the 6 starts at the Drafting Style Atlanta track, all with Trackhouse Racing, and an average finish of 7.3, second best in the NASCAR Cup Series, only behind Ryan Blaney. Look out for Daniel Suarez this weekend. I don't think he's going to qualify well, but he's probably going to end up racing well once we begin. I would imagine he's going to qualify better than Chastain, but I don't know by how much. Trackhouse does seem to start deep in the field. That team has the setup figured out for this race car. Now, he does have a new crew chief for this season, so I don't know how that's going to work out for him. No, he does not. Never mind. I had that mixed up with another team. So, yeah, he does have the same crew chief. So, I'd imagine setup-wise, they should be good to go here for this weekend. Get the chat back going again. See what you guys think down below. Daniel Overby, thanks for tuning in. Who has the best average finish for the guys in qualifying today? Ryan Blaney, as I just mentioned, actually. I didn't even see your comment, so that was kind of perfect timing for that. Track is worn out so much, we'll be interested to see how the Cup cars handle. Well, there will be cooler track temps for the spring race and what we'll see, obviously, later in the summer. So there should be a little bit more grip, but obviously it still led to a great race last year. I'm not saying that there's going to be a lot of grip. There's just going to be slightly more, I think, today than what we'll see in the summer. But it's going to be fun. The Goose is loose. Thanks for tuning in. Zane BJ is going to get the upset win. I mean, you never know. You never know. Although it's a drafting style racetrack, I would say that this one's going to lead to probably less upset winners. But then again, Corey LaJoie almost won the race in 2022, although the track had way more grip in 22 than what we've seen the last 2 years here. So they did go to commercial right before Daniel Suarez was about to qualify, and I'm pretty sure they're going to run these last 10 drivers out on basically one whole stint. Then they'll cut to commercial after round 1 is done. Again, top 10 advances to round 2. It's going to be an abbreviated qualifying stream as we missed the first 15 qualifiers before we got started here. Again, it started at 11 a.m., but it was slated on NASCAR.com for 11:30. So I'm not going to fault myself for that. Luckily, I at least got on here before 11:30, so if that had been the case, then I wouldn't have got on here till 10 minutes ago, and we would have missed even more. Since I went live, most of the drivers, obviously in the top 10 right now, I haven't talked about, so we'll get to go through those stats for those specific drivers as well when we get into round 2. Not all of them are probably going to stay there, but so far they have. So Suarez was a little bit better than his teammate Chastain and also SVG 20th, 31.332 for Daniel Suarez. Jackson Robinson also thanks for tuning into the stream. Kyle Lance, welcome. Yeah, we're definitely not going to hit our like goal for this one, considering I didn't have the full stream. That sucks, man. I have not done that before. There was one time the Xfinity Series race got started, and I started the stream while they were on the parade lap, so we didn't miss anything. But yeah, this is literally my worst fear. 31st driver had just qualified, and that was Michael McDowell at Spire Motorsports. 31.265 for McDowell, 17th for him. His best finish here is 4th, and that was in 2023's summer race. the rain-shortened event. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s for McDowell with a 15.6 average finish on the drafting style of Atlanta track. When I'm saying the average finish, by the way, just to not have to repeat myself on a consistent basis, the average finish is for the drafting style Atlanta track, because obviously previous Atlanta doesn't correlate with this Atlanta that we see today. Eric Jones just qualified. Let's see here. 21st, 31.328. So that's 12 consecutive drivers who have failed to make it into the top 10 here in qualifying. His best finish also 4th. That was in 2022 in that summer race. 14.6 average finish for Jones at this Atlanta with 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s. On track now is Chris Buescher. His best finish 7th, and that was the first race here on the drafting style track. 7th in 2022's spring. So it's been a few years. 2 top 10s, 22.5 average finish for Buescher. Nowhere near where his teammate Keselowski is at on speed on a consistent basis, but he is in a Ford. I expect him to qualify well, and he did jump into the top 10, so that will bump Bubba Wallace out of the top 10. And Buescher currently sits in 8th, so he's by no means safe, but he is there for now. 31.075 for Chris Buescher. Look at all the blue ovals in the top 10. This is, I mean, exactly what happened in both races here last season, so I guess not a surprise. They've got a stranglehold at Atlanta. And now it's Austin Cindric, who also has some pretty good stats at the track. His best finish here, 3rd in 2022. 12.0 average finish, 4th best of anybody in the Cup Series. 5 top 12 finishes in those 6 starts. So very consistent. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. And he's led 134 laps across the last 3 races at Atlanta combined. And as he wraps his lap up, he's right there in the front row as of right now with his teammate Joey Logano, but he is slotted in second, 30.955. The 3rd lap to be a sub 31 second lap time, and that is an average speed of 179.099 miles per hour. And that will bump another Chevy, AJ Allmendinger, out of the top 10. 9 Fords, 1 Chevy, no Toyotas on the manufacturer side of things in the top 10. Kyle Busch, the only Chevy in the top 10 as of right now. His teammate Austin Dillon is already qualified. He is currently 13th. And up next is another Toyota, John Hunter Nemechek, so I'm not expecting him to get up into the top 10. Nemechek has only had 2 starts at Atlanta under this configuration, both last season with Legacy Motor Club in 2024, and that was a 21st and 33rd place finish for himself. So not a big sample size for him to go off of. And he does qualify better than most of the Toyotas, 18th, only behind Wallace, 31.250 for Nemechek. Might sneak in around mid-pack for the start. Not going to start at the very tail end of the field like some of his Toyota counterparts. Alex Bowman's best finish at the racetrack, as he is currently on track, is 5th, 2024. And that was last year in the most recent race at the track, which would have taken place in the playoffs. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s for Bowman with an average finish of 19.0. No Hendrick cars up in the top 10, and that will continue. 12th for Alex Bowman, 31.155 with 177.949 mile per hour average, so just missing out on the cut. The cut lap for Ryan Preece is a 31.109. That is the time to beat to break into the top 10. 7 drivers are locked in as of right now, which would be Keselowski, Busch, Zane Smith, Gilliland, Barry, Cindric, and Logano. They're locked in. Gragson, Buescher, Preece on the bubble. Another Penske Ford on track right now, and that would be Ryan Blaney, who has the best average finish of any driver at Atlanta under this configuration. That average finish is a 7.1. He's got 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and 106 laps led. He was runner-up in this race a season ago. Part of that 3-wide photo finish coming to the line. And Blaney does easily jump up into the top 10, position number 2, right in the middle of his teammates. Penske 1, 2, 3, top of the board, and their affiliated teammate Josh Berry is in 4th for the Wood brothers. My goodness. Even last year when we saw this, I don't think we saw this much domination out of Ford in qualifying. Crazy. 30.915 for Blaney. Again, second, right in front of Cindric, just behind Logano. And no, Logano's not using the webbed glove that he used last year either. So, so that's not the difference. Tyler Reddick, the second to last qualifier in round 1. Don't expect him to get in the top 10. There are no Toyotas up there right now. 20.8 average finish for Reddick. His best finish here is 5th, which was in 2023 spring race. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s for Tyler at this Atlanta configuration. 2311 Toyotas have shown the most speed in qualifying with Wallace and Reddick. 31.228 for Reddick, 17th in the middle of the pack, couple spots behind Bubba. Wallace will end up being the top Toyota in qualifying. No Toyotas in the top 10 over the last 2 qualifiers. And it's down between Chris Buescher, Ford, Chevy, William Byron. Byron, 2-time Atlanta winner. 2022, the first race here of the drafting track. And in 2023 in the summer. Outside of those 2 wins, though, he hasn't fared very well otherwise outside of 1 other 9th place finish, which was a top 10. So just the 3 top 10s to go for. 15.0 average finish. He either runs really well or not so well, gets caught up in an incident. He's led 174 laps in those 6 races, though he led over 100 of them in that win in 2022. And he led over 40 in the summer race in 2022, so hasn't quite returned to that kind of dominant form at Atlanta when it comes to leading laps and running up towards the front of the pack. But coming off a Daytona 500 win last week, we'll have to see how it goes for Willie B. 16th is where he qualified, 31.225, so no Hendrick cars in the top 10 here. The only Chevy is the RCR 8 of Kyle Busch. He's probably going to be quick again here. I didn't get to him on his qualifying lap because of the slightly late start here. So we'll go through his stats when he goes to qualify the second time. I'm going to take a picture real quick of the qualifying leaderboard. So I'll have the starting lineup for you pretty quickly as soon as we get done with round 2. Actually, we can kind of go through this right now while we're waiting, as we'll have a cool down period between round 1 and round 2 of qualifying. Blowing through this right now. So Chris Buescher does hold on to that 10th and final spot, locks himself in with Byron sitting in 17th. So Ryan Preece will end up 11th on the starting grid. AJ Allmendinger in 12th. Alex Bowman 13th. Bubba Wallace 14th. Austin Dillon 15th. 16th for Kyle Larson. William Byron 17th. Chase Elliott 18th. Tyler Reddick 19th. And Ty Dillon in 20th. With Justin Haley 21st. John Hunter Nemechek 22nd. Cole Custer 23rd. Michael McDowell 24th. 25th for Chase Briscoe. Carson Hocevar 26th. Riley Herbst 27th. Eric Jones 28th. Daniel Suarez 29th. Shane Van Gisbergen in 30th. Chris Buescher 31st. Cody Ware. I don't know why I said Chris Buescher. Cody Ware 31st. Christopher Bell 32nd. Ross Chastain 33rd. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 34th. Corey LaJoie 35th. Ty Gibbs 36th. Denny Hamlin 37th. BJ McLeod and JJ Ailey 38th and 39th. Top 10, 9 Fords, 1 Chevy once again. Penske 1, 2, 3. Logano first. Blaney second. Hendrick third. Fastest lap 30.892 for Logano. Average speed of 179.464 miles per hour. We tend to see a slight bump up from round 1 to round 2 in super speedway qualifying over years past. Not much, but usually it's because of the heat, I think, in the engines, especially at Atlanta. The slower lap, although Logano's going to have a big cool-down time because he was one of the first drivers to qualify. And maybe that green racetrack could have helped him as well compared to his teammates. So outside of the top 3, you got Josh Berry in 4th, Todd Gilliland 5th, Zane Smith 6th, and then the lone Chevy Kyle Busch in 7th. Brad Keselowski 8th, Noah Gragson 9th, and Chris Buescher in 10th. And they will go in the descending order of how they finished 10th through 1st. Will be the order for round 1, so Chris Buescher will qualify before anybody else when we begin round 2. So again, thank you for everybody watching the stream. For some reason I got logged out of my chat. I gotta get back into it. Brett Whitesides, thanks for tuning in. Najee's Amazing Cars and NASCAR Diecasts. Welcome as well. Penske 123 indeed. Good morning to everybody watching. Almost noon Eastern time. Getting close. Get screwed, didn't I? Yeah, I did get screwed. I'm about to look on the NASCAR app. I might not be able to see it right now because there's live action going on, but I want to see if they updated the starting time for qualifying on there. Or if... Oh, gosh. Let's look at the schedule here. Well, now it says 11:05. I swear it was 11:30 earlier in the week, though. Obviously, that's, I guess, on my behalf for not checking the schedule today, but I didn't think I had to check it every single day of the week to make sure it didn't change. Well, at least I know going forward I'm going to do that, so this doesn't happen again. That's tough. Start times are still the same for the races later today, so that's good. This won't happen again. Promise. Well, it's time for our diecast showing while we're waiting for round 2. I didn't get a diecast showing out during the Daytona 500, so I wanted to show off the diecast that I missed from last week for this week. That means we'll have 2 for the Cup race tomorrow as well during both stage breaks. This is the Dale Jr. 2001 diecast, and I figured because Junior Motorsports made their debut in the Cup Series, I was going to show a Dale Jr. diecast, and with Daytona, what better one to show than his Daytona Pepsi 400 from 2001 victory-winning race car. Of course, the first time back to the track after his dad had tragically passed away in the 500 earlier that year. It's the 2001 All-Star Race scheme. They were in Seattle that year. I love this paint scheme. I love the way that they incorporated basically the baseball look. Not just like the sport of baseball, but like the specific baseball itself. You can see the trim around the cars, basically the seams of a baseball. Obviously, you still have the statue of what's on the left side of the door. We got a base runner. We got the pitcher on the right side, and then if you look at the tail of the car, you got the hitter on there. So they got everything. They did a great job with this race car. There's seams obviously on the top of it as well, around the number 8. Good on Bud Light. They did this for a couple years. I think my dad's actually got the 02 car as well from the Pepsi 400 that year. And it didn't look anything like it from one year to the next, so they did a good job changing that. So definitely a classic paint scheme. It's the one I wanted to show off during the 500 last week, so because I missed that, again, we'll have 2 of them for tomorrow's Cup race. This is practice or qualifying. Earl Arnold Jr., thank you for tuning in. This is qualifying. No practice this week for all 3 series. Qualifying only. And that will be like that for the rest of the drafting style racetracks the rest of the season. So our next trip to Daytona, both trips to Talladega will be qualifying only. Only practice sessions we had on super speedways this year was for the Daytona 500. Cup Series had 3 50-minute sessions. Not sure, why they don't have another session for any of the other tracks, but super speedway wise. We'll take a quick break while we're waiting here for round 2 to begin. You're listening live on KRC to NASCAR Cup Series Ambetter Health 400 qualifying at Atlanta. So again, our qualifying order for round 2 will be Chris Buescher, then Noah Gragson, Brad Keselowski 8th, Kyle Busch 9th, Zane Smith in 6th. Sorry, I don't know what was that. Let me restart that. That was bad. Hopefully you guys weren't listening too closely. Chris Buescher will be the first driver out. I started reading the numbers that I was seeing on the left side of the screen, even though that wasn't the order that they were going in. Descending. Just like we'd have the way the stage points would be awarded. So Chris Buescher will be first. Gragson will be the second car to go out. Then Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Zane Smith. Back half of the order, Todd Gilliland, Josh Berry, Austin Cindric. Last 2 will be Ryan Blaney and then Joey Logano. So Logano's definitely going to have the longest cooldown time of any of these drivers because he was one of the first to go out and he will be the last to go out in round 2. So that's going to help him quite a bit. Might have to refresh the page to get the order off the screen. We'll obviously go through the entire starting lineup as soon as qualifying wraps up. And again, our next live stream will be later today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern for the Craftsman Truck Series race at Atlanta. Coverage will be on Fox Sports 1, full flag. The flag coverage you can listen live here, obviously, on KRC. Yep, there we go. Got final round. Just had to refresh the page a little bit. And now it's got the order in the actual order here. Still no green flag for Buescher. If you're wondering visually where you can watch this, Amazon Prime. First coverage of NASCAR ever on Amazon Prime is right now for qualifying, and they will carry practice and qualifying for the first half of the NASCAR season. I believe when Turner takes over for TNT, then they will have practice and qualifying at that portion of the schedule, but it's going to be it for the first half. I think the 600 might be on Fox as well. There was one other race, and I think it was the 600. Will also end up being on Fox later in the year. And that'll be the last. Or no, that's not right, because that's the first race of Amazon Prime. Maybe it's Talladega then. There was another race. There was another race that Fox is supposed to have qualifying and practice for. But not for a while. Talladega in late April, of course. Got 21 likes on the stream. I appreciate that, everybody. Maybe we can get to 25 here before the stream's over. Our usual goal for qualifying is 50, but that's what I get for missing the first 25 minutes. Nearly. I mean, by the time they started, I really only missed the first 20, but the laps are obviously quicker here at Atlanta than what they are at Daytona and Talladega, so that's why we missed so many qualifiers. We did read the stats of Chris Buescher and how he has fared at the new drafting style Atlanta track since he was in the very tail end of the group of cars that qualified in round one. He's actually the sixth to last driver to qualify, so very little cooldown period for him. I don't expect him to put up a great lap here. As a result, he might actually tick downwards from round one to round two, as he didn't get much of a cooldown period. 2 top 10s, 22.5 average finish in the 6 starts for Buescher. His best finish in the 2022 spring race of 7th. It's going to be hard to pick against the Ford tomorrow, especially a Penske Ford. It was tough for me to fall off of that for Daytona last week. Going to have that again. Anthony Manzano, thanks for tuning in. Just subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that. Well, because you're new, I'll reiterate, we do live commentary streams every NASCAR race weekend, Truck Xfinity Cup races, as well as Cup practice and qualifying. No practice this week, so we actually have one less stream, but, well, technically practice would lead into qualifying, so it'd all be on the same stream, but this stream abbreviated, obviously, with just qualifying. Who was top 5 in Group A? Well, there's no group qualifying, so it was just all together. So the top 5 was Logano, Blaney, Hendrick, Berry, and Gilliland, which will be the last 5 to qualify. No group qualifying for this year. They did change that. And the only round-to-round qualifying is only on the super speedways or drafting style tracks, like we see here today at Atlanta, like we saw for the Daytona 500 last week as well. Those are the only times we will see round-to-round qualifying. So just one round, kind of the way it traditionally was for the longest time, once we get to a non-road course or super speedway. Road courses will also be multiple rounds. Question I noticed with Hendrick in the past few years, it seems that they don't care how they perform qualifying and seem to be better in the race. Why? Well, probably just gave up on trying to be better at qualifying, knowing that they weren't winning super speedway races for a long time. Probably tried to change something. And, well, I mean, William Byron's won the last 2 Daytona 500s, so you can't blame them. Even though I don't think that they were as good last year through the race, the 2014 specifically, as what they were this year, I still think that, obviously, it's worked on paper. Atlanta might be a different animal this week, especially with how many Fords are in the top 10, especially for stage 1. It's going to be tough to fight through them. 31.1 for Chris Buescher. So he did actually, I think he did pick up a little bit from round 1, surprisingly, despite the very minimal amount of cooldown time. So I would imagine that we're going to see some significant increases in speed going forward here. We only had three drivers, actually. All three Penske cars and then the 21 of Barry. So 4 cars had a sub 31-second lap time in round 1. I'm curious to see how many of those we'll see here in round 2. But again, not for Buescher, but it's still a respectable time to say the least, all things considered, at 31.1. Again, 178.264 mile per hour average. Yeah, Byron definitely the best super speedway racer at Hendrick Motorsports, undoubtedly. Chase Elliott was, I mean, he gets his wins from time to time. I'd say he was definitely better in the Gen 6, I feel like Elliott was, than the next gen when it comes to super speedways, although he does have a win at Talladega and Atlanta, so not going to fault him there. But as far as competitive leading more laps, it seemed like it was that way for a while with the Gen 6. And he did win at Dega once with the Gen 6 as well, back in 2019. 31.131 for Noah Gragson, who just completed his lap. Haven't talked about Gragson and his stats at Atlanta because that was a little early in the stream. 12th is the best finish for Gragson here. And that was 2023. He's got 3 DNFs, 31.0 average finish. Not so hot for Noah Gragson at Atlanta. I remember every time we came here when he was in the 62 car, I think he wrecked out, which is where a lot of those DNFs had come from. And they were early crash outs, so he ended up finishing at the tail end of the field, hence the 31.0 average finish. Brad Keselowski is now on the racetrack. His best finish here is second. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s with a 15.0 average finish for Bad Brad at Atlanta. A runner-up, though, in the 2023 spring race behind Joey Logano. And he was actually leading coming to the white flag when Logano had passed him on the back straightaway. So he was close to getting a win here. And it'll be second right behind his teammate, 31.102. For Brad Keselowski, just 2 1,000ths of a second off of Buescher's time. So that's interesting. Because Buescher was slower than Brad in round 1. Brad slower than Buescher in round 2. So Chris Buescher, being the first driver to qualify, has already gained a couple of spots from where he was from round 1. So he's benefiting with this second round so far. And now the lone Chevy of Kyle Busch. We'll see where he ranks compared to the other Fords. Kyle Busch, very, very good at Atlanta, and especially with RCR. All 4 races with RCR at this Atlanta configuration, he's finished inside the top 10. He was a part of that 3-wide finish where he finished 3rd here a season ago. That is his best finish at the racetrack. He's got 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s in those last 3 races. His races here with the Joe Gibbs Racing team, not the greatest. But that's the difference in equipment, I'd say, especially in the drafting style tracks, Toyota versus Chevy. Toyota only has 1 drafting track win with the next-gen car, and that was Tyler Reddick at Talladega last spring. And it took a couple of Fords wrecking in front of him on the final lap to get that win. So, not looking great for them. Fast time for Kyle Busch, though. Faster than the 3 drivers that he beat in round 1. 31.037 for Busch as he picks up 178.626 mile per hour average. It's a great lap. Zane Smith, haven't talked about his stats here at the track yet either. He is now on racetrack. And he'll be the 5th qualifier in round 2. He's only had 2 starts at Atlanta, and that was last season in his rookie year with Spire Motorsports, 21st and 35th in those races. At 21st, the better of the 2, was the second of which last fall. Front Row Motorsports had the pole with Michael McDowell in this race a season ago. And all 3 Front Row Motorsport Fords qualified inside the top 10 here today. Gragson would be last of the 4 qualifiers right now, so I would imagine Smith and Gillen will be a little bit quicker considering they were in round 1, but that wasn't the case with the RFK Fords, so I guess I'll shut up and just wait and see. Back to the chat. Southern Bell, welcome to the stream as well. Fox Amazon off to a bad start. It's 2025, goodness sake. The glitches, the buffering, unacceptable. Double dip going to end badly for Amazon. Well, it is their very first stream with NASCAR, so I'm sure that there's a lot to be on that behalf. That it wasn't going to roll off perfect. It was like that with the CW last year, too. And I'd still even argue the CW isn't perfect. Their coverage is, but the audio is so bad. I feel like with CW still. They get the audio right, though. There's a lot there. I really like their coverage of the Xfinity race outside of the audio last week. Broadcast booth included. But yeah, Fox coverage-wise, you got Mike Joy, Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer in the booth for the Amazon side of things here, since Fox is covering the first dozen races of the season. Zane Smith was second, by the way, 31.070 for him. So Kyle Busch is still on top right now, beating the Fords. I definitely look for him to be quick. He was in the top 5 for a lot of the last 60 laps or so in that final stage of the race. In the Daytona 500 before getting caught up in that crash with 15 to go. Todd Gilliland, though, going to top Kyle Busch at the top of the leaderboard. Gilliland in the 34 car is position number 1 with 4 drivers to go. 178.735 mile per hour average. Gilliland's best finish here, 15th. 21.3 average finish, but he did lead 58 laps in the spring race here last season after starting in the top 4. I believe he qualified 3rd in that race, only behind Logano and McDowell, so we'll see if he starts top 3 again, although the Penske car is going to be tough to beat. And the Penske affiliate, Josh Berry, is now on racetrack. Berry's not had great runs, though he has not been in a Ford at Atlanta before, so it could be different for him this weekend, but his best finish here is 18th in 3 starts. 25.0 average finish in those starts for Berry. 2 of them last year, obviously, with Stewart-Haas Racing, and then so I guess he would have been in a Ford. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, Berry just hasn't fared well in the speedways, super speedways specifically, since his time in Cup. Atlanta, no different. I was thinking back to that one race he had with Hendrick Motorsports, taking over for Chase Elliott after Elliott had the snowboarding incident. Qualifying going well, though. Top of the speed charts, 30.948. So the top 4 in round 1 were the only drivers to run a sub 31 second lap time. And if they all do that again here, that will continue to be the trend in round 2. As we have just 3 qualifiers to go. And again, the first one in round 2 to run a sub 31 second time is Berry. Now, Berry did qualify top 5 for the Daytona 500 last week. Didn't finish so hot in the duel. Ended up crashing coming to the line in his dual race, so he ended up having to start at the back in a backup car, but won't have to worry about any duels this weekend, so he will be starting up towards the front. Austin Cindric will be the first of the 3 Penske Fords to go. Mentioned already that he has finished in the top 12 5 times at Atlanta under this configuration in the 6 races. He's a great super speedway racer with great super speedway racing equipment. We saw how much Penske dominated the Daytona 500 last week. Between the 3 of them, all 3 of those drivers led the most laps in the race. So no surprise, Penske up with their first car, that Austin Cindric will take the top spot. 30.910 for Cindric with 179.359 mile per hour average. So Cindric P1. Ryan Blaney, who was second in round 1, is the second to last driver to qualify in round 2. And what's interesting about Blaney is that he hasn't qualified as well as Cindric and Logano in the super speedways last season. And even in the Daytona 500, he lagged behind him a little bit. But here at Atlanta, at least in round 1, he was quicker than one of them. So maybe they found even more speed in the 12. Here's my pick to win both races here last year because of how good he is. Again, 7.1 average finish, best in the Cup Series. And, well, he finished second in both races. So He came close. So 2 runner-ups for him. Waiting to see where he's going to round up on his qualifying lap. 30.908, top of the charts. By 2/1000ths of a second, Ryan Blaney will move ahead of his teammate Austin Cindric, a 179.371 mile per hour average. Now, Joey Logano did run a 38. I think it was a 30.892, if my memory serves me correct, in round 1. If he backs that up, he will get the pole. He was the only driver to run a 38. And he's had the longest cooldown time. Will that be the advantage for Joey Logano as he's on track, trying to get his second front row start for this spring Atlanta date in a row? He was second last year. Can he be one spot better this year? Logano did qualify on the pole in the 2023 spring race at Atlanta. He's the last driver we haven't gone over their stats for this Atlanta configuration. He's a 2-time winner, 3 top 10s, 140 laps led in the 2023 win, 13.6 average finish, which actually ranks him 6th best in the Cup Series. And Joey Logano fell down quite a bit, 31.002. He actually qualifies 4th, so maybe the long cooldown period was not great for him. And Ryan Blaney will be on the pole at Atlanta. We have had 2 pole winners win an Atlanta drafting track race, and that was Chase Elliott in 2022, and then that Logano race in 23 I was just talking about. So Ryan Blaney on the pole, a Penske lockout of the front row still. I am shocked that Logano dropped as much as he did. He didn't even get into the 30s. Again, a 31.002. He dropped almost 0.2 of a second from round 1. So maybe the less cooldown period of time was the way to go. So we saw Buescher pick up there early. Couple spots, obviously, from where he was the last round. Kyle Busch picked up, and then obviously Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric stayed in the top 2, but Logano didn't. So congratulations, Ryan Blaney on the pole. I'm just going to say it right now. He's my pick to win tomorrow again. I'm going to take Blaney. I was sitting on the fence between Blaney and Logano again. I took him both times last year. Can the guy who finished runner-up twice, once by a nose in the 3-wide finish a year ago, finally break through and win at Atlanta? He does have a win here, which was the summer race in 2021. Obviously, it was the last race under the old configuration at Atlanta. Looking for a drafting track win. So Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric is going to make up row number 1 for this race. And I'll go through the rest of the starting lineup as follows behind them. Get the rest of the leaderboard up on my phone here. All right, so again, Ryan Blaney on the pole for the first time at Atlanta under the drafting track configuration. Austin Cindric on the front row again, as he will be starting in second. Josh Berry and Joey Logano will make up row 2. Row 3, Todd Gilliland, Kyle Busch. Busch, again, the only Chevy in the top 10. Zane Smith and Chris Buescher in row 4. Row number 5, Brad Keselowski and Noah Gragson. In row 6, it'll be off-screen, of course, Ryan Preece and A.J. Allmendinger. And in row number 7, it'll be Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace. Wallace, the highest qualifying Toyota, in 14th. Austin Dillon, Kyle Larson in row 8. Larson's streak of 5 straight top 10 starting positions at Atlanta ends here today. William Byron, Chase Elliott, his 2 Hendrick teammates behind him in row number 9. And in row number 10, rounding out the top half of the field, Tyler Reddick and Ty Dillon. The 2 ties. Justin Haley, along with John Hunter Nemechek in row 11. Row 12 for Cole Custer, Michael McDowell. Chase Briscoe, Carson Hocevar in row 13. Row number 14 for Riley Herbst and Eric Jones. Daniel Suarez, Shane Van Gisbergen in row 15. Row 16, Cody Ware, Christopher Bell. Row 17, deep in the field, will be 2 Chevys, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Ross Chastain. And then rounding out the field in the last few rows, Corey LaJoie, Ty Gibbs in row 18. Row 19, Denny Hamlin, B.J. McLeod, and J.J. Yaley all by himself in row number 19, or row 20 rather, in 39. So that'll round out our 39 car field for tomorrow's race. So 2 different pole winners in the first 2 points paying races. And if you want to count the Clash in there too, that'd be 3 for 3. Elliott on the Clash, 1 from the pole. We had a pole sitter win in dual race number 2, Larson and Hendrick as well. So we've seen a pole winner win a couple times already this year. We'll see if Blaney can do it tomorrow. Once again, coverage for Truck Series racing at Atlanta will begin just over an hour from now at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. We will go live for the Xfinity race also later today at 5 p.m. Eastern, a part of our triple header of NASCAR coverage on the channel. Appreciate everybody tuning in here on KRC for our coverage of Ambetter Health 400 qualifying. And we'll be live again for the race tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, beginning with our pre-race coverage. Where does Alex Bowman start? What did I say, 17th? I'm sure you heard it when I was going through the list, but I didn't see your comment till just now. So I was reading through it. No, best of the Hendrick. 13th for Bowman. Ross Doherty, thanks for tuning in. 12's going to take it tomorrow, I'm sure. Yeah, I think so too. A French NASCAR fan, thanks for tuning in. Logano will get the pole. No surprise. Not quite. Thoughts on I will have more pre-race coverage for the races when we go live for the race tomorrow. That's why I do go live about a half hour to 45 minutes before the drop of the green flag. So I can get through all the predictions for drivers who I think will run well, not run well, maybe underdogs for the win. Najee's a Penske guy. I'm sure you're happy about their qualifying effort today as well. Got 27 likes. Be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. And again, we will be live. We have 2 more streams to go today, 3 on the NASCAR race weekend at Atlanta. It's just getting started, and it's going to be getting really, really good here shortly when we get some racing for the first time today. Kyle Busch in the truck race, along with Michael McDowell. They're the only 2 Cup regulars, I believe, in the truck field for later, both for Spire Motorsports. Again, thanks for watching. We're going to sign off now. And congrats again, Ryan Blaney on the pole. My favorite driver on the pole at Atlanta for tomorrow's Cup race.